Okay, we're ready, Mark. Please, yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Roll call. We have a quorum. Last, like to ask everybody to stand for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Has everybody received the updated minutes for the November 16th, 2023 meeting? Any changes, corrections? Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Okay. Has everybody received the minutes from the January 18th meeting?
You have to have a vote on the first 7 minutes, please.
Motion to, or we have the motion, all in favor, approval for the minutes of November 16th?
Yes.
Is everybody? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Approval from the minutes from January 18th, 2024. Has everybody received their copy? Anybody missing any changes or corrections? No? Okay, can I have a motion to approve the minutes, please?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Okay. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Approved. Thank you. Any items from board members? None? Okay, thank you. Any items from staff? Thank you. Okay, first public hearing is V 2325 Bush 212 Brook Drive. It's a consideration of a variance to reduce a front setback from 35 to 20 feet and a side setback from 10 feet to 8 feet to allow for a garage addition. The property is located at 212 Brook Drive and is legally described as being located in land lot 1251, 2nd District, 2nd Section, Fulton County, Georgia. Mr. Woodman? Good evening.
Thank you, Chair and board members. The first request this evening is a variance request to reduce front setback from 35 feet to 20 feet and a western side setback from 10 feet to 8 feet to allow for the construction of a garage addition. Do have the location map on the overhead. The property is located at 212 Brook Drive in the Meadowbrook Hills subdivision. Property is 0.4 acres. It's zoned R15. It's developed with a two-story, about 3,800 square foot single-family detached home, and this is a recently redeveloped property in the neighborhood. It was built in 2019. The application, let me show you the site plan. So this is the site plan. Brook Drive is here. So this is the existing home. And so the applicant proposes to expand the existing driveway. They have a one-car garage addition here. This is not, the garage does not face the street. So the opening for the garage is on the back side of the garage. What they are doing, actually I'm pointing to the wrong area. This is the garage addition here, this white area. So what they are basically doing is they're creating a motor court. We have examples of that in the downtown, and I'll show you some examples. But basically, they would be adding the one-car garage addition here. It would block the existing garage door that is right here. There's also a side-loaded garage on the home as well. The new garage addition is approximately 264 square feet. Has a depth of 22 feet and it's 12 feet wide. The garage addition is connected by a breezeway to the home. So it is not a detached garage, it is connected to the home. And again, the garage door does not face the road, and I will show you a rendering that the applicant has provided of that. The expansion of the driveway will be with pervious pavers, so all the motor court area and the driveway will be done with pervious pavers, as well as a new walkway to the front along the frontage of the home. So this is the rendering of the house. So this is the existing home here. This is the new proposed one-car garage, so it just looks like an extension of the home. Again, the garage door is not facing the road. The garage door is on the back side of this structure, and there is a covered walkway here connected to the home. This is in the driveway with the new garage addition shown here, and the motor court area shown behind. And then this is within the garage, the motor court area. The driveway is here. So this is an exhibit of the Meadowbrook Hills subdivision. There are 57 lots within this subdivision. Of those 57 lots, 25 of those lots have been recently redeveloped. So this is a neighborhood that has seen a lot of redevelopment in the past few years. And of those 25 redeveloped lots, about 52% have at least a three-car garage. So these are much larger homes from the original development of this neighborhood, which were one-story ranch-style homes. As I mentioned, we do have examples of the motor courts being constructed throughout the downtown. This is an example on Canton Street. This one shows the garage addition here. This one just happens to have a porte-cochere instead of that covered walkway. This is the same home from an aerial view.
Hey, Michael?
Yes.
Real quick, on that one, that example that you just showed, is that the garage there, the front garage, is that completely in front of the house?
Yes, this, actually, you can see that.
Okay.
So from the aerial view, you can see the garage as well as the porte-cochere is completely in front of the front facade of the home.
All right, thank you.
Which is very similar to what's proposed here. Also, the 12 on Canton neighborhood has every one shown in the red box has a similar type motor court configuration. This is just a front elevation of one of those properties showing the porte-cochere leading back to the motor court area. This is an example on Canton Street. And this is an example on Haynes Bridge. This is right behind City Hall here at Haynes Bridge, just south of Academy. And then this is the lot, I believe this is the lot at the corner, or no, this is not the corner of Academy. This is on Academy Street. So you've got the garage with the porte-cochere or covered walk. As I mentioned, this is a front setback reduction from 35 to 20 feet. We did look at existing setbacks throughout this neighborhood. Again, a lot of these, about little less than 50% have been redeveloped. So a lot of the homes are still the one-story ranch configurations with the larger setbacks. But we do have some examples of setbacks as small as 9 feet from the right-of-way. Here's one at 13 feet, 23 feet, 14 feet. Bring the site plan back up. So in consideration of the applicant's request, we did look at the review criteria, and as I've mentioned, we do have several examples throughout the downtown, of which this subdivision is also located in the downtown, of the motor court driveway configurations. Also, if this is approved, we did note that the existing street-facing garage door would be blocked or screened from view from Brook Drive, which is a desirable configuration. In fact, we do require that if you have a street-facing garage door, that it has to be recessed 20 feet behind the facade. So the fact that they would be blocking that garage door is a desirable condition in the downtown. And then with respect to the applicant's citizen participation, they did notify adjacent properties and did not receive any objections. So staff is recommending approval of the applicant's request, subject to 4 conditions, and I'll go through those conditions. Condition 1, garage addition shall be permitted as depicted on the site plan labeled Exhibit A with a 20-foot front setback and an 8-foot side setback along the western property line. 2, garage addition shall be substantially similar to the submitted renderings labeled Exhibit B. Those are the renderings that I showed you, with final approval by staff. Condition 3, site landscaping shall comply with the approved ENG, which is their land disturbance permit, dated 2/2/2021, with landscaping installed prior to issuance of a certificate of completion. In condition 4, pervious paver material shall be used for the driveway and front walkway as approved by staff. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Any questions from the board?
The only question I have, so as far as front setbacks, so there was one example of one that was less than 10 feet
Yes, let me.
or 20 feet, I'm sorry, 'cause we're going from 35 to 20 on the front setback.
Oh, sorry. So there are examples of 1, 2, 3, 4 that are less than 20 feet. There's one that's just over 20 feet here. All the ones in yellow are the true front setbacks. These ones that are in red represent a side corner configuration, so these are corner lots. That's the only distinction between the yellow and the red, but there are a few examples that are less than 20. Again, there are no current motor court configurations within this neighborhood, but it is something that we have seen more and more in the downtown.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Woodman. Would the applicant like to come forward? Good evening. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Can you come up and can you tell us your name and your address, please?
Yes.
Excuse me, can you first press the right button on the microphone?
There you go,
Yes.
great.
I'm Kathy Bush.
I'm Joe Bush.
We live at 212 Brook Drive.
For the last 5 years, since we purchased this home when it was brand new.
And
Been-
we're also business owners in Alpharetta. We moved from Chattanooga, Tennessee. We started medical practice on Old Milton Parkway in 2019.
Anything you'd like to tell us regarding the request or any additional information that Mr. Woodman didn't mention?
I did, this past weekend, I took the images of the proposed drawing and to all the neighbors and gave them copies of the letters again.
Okay, great. Any questions from the board for the applicants? None? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Can I get a motion on,
Wait a minute, we have to
oh, I'm sorry, public,
ask for public comment.
any public comments on this? None? Okay, thank you. Anybody like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we approve this, subject to the conditions that Michael laid out.
Thank you. Second? Would you like to make a second on the motion?
So it sounds like there's already been a motion. Were you saying you wanted to motion to approve as well? I think that would be a second then.
I second for approval.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? None? Okay, all in favor of the motion? Raise your hand. Opposed? Two. Okay, motion passes. Motion is approved. Thank you. Good luck.
The staff's been very nice working. You're good. Fantastic group.
Okay. Next up is V 2409-265 Dania Drive. Consideration of a variance to allow for a tear down and rebuild of a single-family detached home on 1.02 acres. A variance is requested to Unified Development Code, subsection 2.2.1D, AG Agriculture, District Regulations, to reduce the side setback on the south side of the property from 25 feet to 12.5 feet. The property is located at 265 Dania Drive and is legally described as being located in land lot 1177, 2nd District, 2nd Section, Fulton County, Georgia. Mr. Woodman?
Thank you, Chairman and board members. So the next request is variance request to reduce the side setback on the south side of the property by 50% to allow for a tear down and rebuild of a new single-family detached home. The request would reduce the side setback on the south side of the property from 25 feet to 12.5 feet. And I do have the location map on the overhead. The property is 265 Dania Drive in the Dania Hills subdivision. This property is just over 1 acre. It's zoned AG Agriculture. It's currently developed with a 1-story, 1,300 square foot single-family detached home. And this is the survey of the property. This is the current 1-story ranch home on the property. We did look at the homes within this subdivision. The average home size in Dania Hills is approximately 2,562 square feet. That before the redevelopment, there's been a few lots that have redeveloped in this neighborhood. That average home size would be much smaller. There's been some recent building permits approved in this neighborhood, and that is in your staff report that indicates new homes in the over 5,000 square feet in size have been built here, so that's bumped that average home size up. Approximately half the properties in Dania Hills have a street-facing garage or carport, with all other properties having a side or rear-loaded garage. And then homes within this subdivision consist primarily of 1- and 2-story homes, most of them on basements. The Unified Development Code identifies in the AG zoning district a side yard setback of 25 feet. That zoning, the UDC also requires that AG zoned properties have a minimum lot size of 5 acres. However, most of the lots, I believe all the lots except for the northernmost lot, which has been combined. So this property here was platted as 1 acre lots. They've been combined into one lot, but all other lots are about 1 acre in size. So they are legal non-conforming with respect to that minimum lot size required in the AG zoning district. The applicant is proposing, show you the site plan. So there was a new updated site plan that was emailed to you late this afternoon. This is that updated site plan. It is the same as the site plan that is in your packets, except that the driveway was pulled off the northern property line a little bit in an effort to respond to some letters of objection that we also sent out to the board late this afternoon. But the applicant is proposing a 12.5-foot side setback to 12.5-foot side setback on the south side of the property. So the change to the site plan addressed a condition up on the north side to address concerns from the neighbor to the north. However, the request for variance reduction is on the south side of the property. According to the applicant, the home is approximately 4,800 square feet. It is a single-family detached home, and it is a rear-loaded home. So the garage is at the back of the home, and the garage doors do not face the street. I guess you would call that kind of a side and rear-loaded configuration. As you may recall, last year, the applicant came before this board. There was an initial request of a 50% reduction to the front and side setbacks, and that was done in order to save a 52-inch specimen tree, this red oak, at the back of the property. There was a petition submitted from the neighborhood opposing that variance request, and so the applicant amended his request. He withdrew the front setback reduction and the side setback reduction on the north side of the property, and he proceeded to this board with a request to only reduce the side south setback from 25 to 12.5 feet. That request was ultimately denied at the November 16, 2023 BZA meeting. This is the new elevation. So this was also in the information that we emailed to you late this afternoon. So this is the front of the new proposed home. This is the side elevation. This would be the south side elevation. This would be the north side elevation, so you can see the garage at the back of the property. We looked at the existing side setbacks because we know that most of the lots, except for this lot at the entrance to the subdivision, but all the other lots are legal non-conforming with respect to that minimum lot size. So they're 1-acre lots where AG zoning requires minimum 5 acres. So we also wanted to consider what are the existing side setbacks within this neighborhood, because there were some questions previously with respect to would this approval of the variance set any kind of precedent. And so what we found is we used our GIS information, and we have measuring tool within GIS, and we do know the property lines. And what we found is that about over 70% of the lots have legal but non-conforming side setbacks less than 25 feet. And that's what you see here, the side setbacks listed here. Including the applicant's property. So this is 265 Dania. The applicant has provided a survey. The survey does show that the existing side setback is legally non-conforming, so it doesn't comply with the 25 feet. It is less than 25 feet. We measured it at approximately 15 feet. The survey was closer to about 19 feet. Our measuring tool isn't exactly accurate. It's not survey information, but it was done by the same staff person. All the measurements were done by the same staff person, and they were consistently measured the same way. We also looked at whether or not there were any other variances approved within the neighborhood, and we did find a couple of cases of some administrative variances to reduce front setbacks as well as to reduce setbacks for a retaining wall. As I mentioned, there is some new construction activity going on in this neighborhood, similar to the last case where they're experiencing some redevelopment within this neighborhood. And we did identify 3 recent building permits going back to 2021, and those homes have a total square footage greater than 5,000 square feet. Of course, looking at the review criteria for the variance, we did feel that there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the property due to its size. So the size of the property, again, the AG zoning district requires minimum 5-acre lots. These lots are 1-acre lots. And we did also acknowledge that over 70% of the lots do have existing non-conforming side setbacks. We do believe that the application of the ordinance would force either a front-loaded garage situation and/or reduce the overall square footage of the home. The applicant did provide a citizen participation report. They indicated that the property owner to the north, so this is the property in question, the property owner to the north did have some concerns about the variance, that the variance would set a precedent, and that the size of the proposed home would block views. Also, the property owner to the north did not support the location of the driveway. Let me go back to the site plan. Again, this is the updated driveway. The previous site plan did take this driveway a little bit closer to the northern property line. I believe the dimension that they are now showing between the edge of the driveway to the north property line is a little over 5 feet. It says 5 feet and about 9 inches. We do not have setbacks for driveways. They technically could go right up to the property line. The applicant did provide 8 letters of support or no objection with their citizen participation report, and that did include the property owner to the south that is most affected by the variance. And then, as I mentioned earlier, late this afternoon, we did receive 5 letters of objection to the applicant's request for a side setback reduction, and we did send all 5 of those to you. It appears that most of the objections are related to the driveway, proximity of the driveway to the north property line.
Yeah, can you show the house to the north, how close, do you know how close the driveway is?
So
To
this
the
is,
side yard?
yeah, this is the subject of the variance request. The property to the north is here. And so the driveway, the existing driveway to the north is fairly close to the property line.
Thank you.
So their driveways would be almost butting up against
Can
one
you
another?
turn your microphone on, please?
So their driveways would be butting up almost to one another, or within the 5 feet that you just mentioned?
So based on the revised site plan that was provided, it appears to show the neighbor to the north, their driveway coming very close to the property line, if not maybe going over the property line slightly. That's what it appears that I'm seeing. They're showing that the proposed driveway would be about 5 feet, 9 inches off that north property line. So there would be very small space in between the 2 driveways.
Thank you.
Staff is recommending approval of the applicant's request, and that is based on 4 conditions, and I'll go through those conditions. Condition 1, site layout shall be permitted as depicted on the site plan prepared by KRA, dated, and we would need to change the date to 2/23/24. In your staff report, you see 10/10/2022. That's the previous site plan. That's the site plan in your packet. The 2/23/24 would be the site plan that we sent to you late this afternoon. And with a 12.5-foot side setback on the south side of the property. Condition 2, And I have an exhibit to show you with condition 2. Give me 1 second. Condition 2, tree number TOQ1, which is a 17-inch pecan, and number B01, which is a 30-inch southern red oak, shall be saved, and encroachment into the critical root zone shall not exceed 20% as approved by staff. The pecan is the tree here in the front of the yard. And then the BOQ, the 38-inch southern red oak, is on the adjacent property to the south. But it's a boundary tree very close to, between the two properties. Condition 3, driveway width shall be limited to no more than 12 feet wide, not including the portion of the driveway directly in front of the garage. Go back to the site plan. So that would mean that the applicant would be he would have to limit the width of this driveway to no more than 12, which is what they are showing here, and not including this area where it expands out and entering into the garage. Driveway and portion of driveway directly in front of the garage shall maintain a 5-foot setback from the northern side property line, which is what the applicant has done in this revised site plan. Condition 4, developer shall plant a row of evergreen trees and shrubs between the driveway and the northern property line, as well as along the southern property line, and beginning at the 100-foot front setback line, which is approximately here, to the eastern edge of the proposed rear-loaded garage in order to provide a screen as approved by staff. So basically, if this were approved with these conditions, the developer would have to plant an evergreen screen in this area as well as in this area. And that concludes the presentation. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Thank you. Questions?
I do. So has the footprint of the house changed since we initially looked at this request?
I do not believe so. I believe the footprint of the home is the same as it was previously.
Okay. And also just a comment, I mean, as far as hardships go, if a house is bigger than the lot that it's sitting on, I don't really, don't consider that a hardship because the lot came first, right? So take the dimensions of the lot into account prior to designing a home so that it fits properly on the lot.
I think the hardship here is that they have an AG zoning, which requires a minimum 5 acres, and these are 1 acre lots. So that's the hardship here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just a further note, because I'll just go back to what I said before, I just want to clarify, the side setbacks of the other homes less than 25 feet on Dania Drive are single-story homes. And this is not a single-story home.
There are a mix of, so we did, because that question came up as part of the previous application that was before us, and I was asked by the board about I was asked whether these are 1-story, 2-story, 3-story homes, and whether they were front, rear, or side loaded garage, and I didn't have a response, so we did go back and look at the entire neighborhood. And so this neighborhood is a combination of 1- and 2-story homes. So there are some that are 1- and 2-story.
I have a question.
Please.
Mike, can you recap again on the 2 big trees, the pecans and the red oak trees? They will be saved? Is it going to be saved, the 2 large trees that you mentioned a few minutes ago, or will it be replaced?
So if this were approved, there's a condition requiring this pecan in the front yard be saved, as well as this off-site or boundary tree, which is the 38-inch red oak. The large specimen tree at the back, the 52-inch red oak, this will not be saved. This cannot be saved with the home at the 100-foot front setback. So again, the applicant had originally requested to move the home up to with a 50-foot front setback in order to save that tree. there was a petition from the neighborhood that opposed that condition, and so the applicant withdrew that, and so the large specimen tree will not be saved.
Thank you.
I have one more question. So is it true that any additions to homes or new homes on Dania abide by the 25-foot setbacks?
Is it,
Is it true?
would you mind restating that question? I'm not sure if I followed the
So
question.
any new construction or additions to existing homes, do they currently abide by the 25-foot setback?
So let's see here. So this appears, so I don't know, I don't recall exactly which lots have been redeveloped recently, but I believe this one has, this one has, this one, and I'm not sure which others, but this one is showing.
Michael, I don't
Actually,
think
this is
we
not,
can't.
this is not a redevelopment. This one, I'm sorry?
We couldn't see what you were pointing to. It's not visible on the screen.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Let me zoom out here. Oh. Sorry about that. I didn't realize it was off screen. I know this one is a redeveloped lot right here.
I think it's just to the south of that, Michael. I think it's 260 and 270, I believe, are the brand new ones. I can't speculate on any of the other existing homes,
Yeah.
but
That's what it says here, 260 and 270 are the new builds.
Thank you. So 260 is the one that on this aerial is not showing a new home. I believe this one is under construction now, so I cannot verify whether or not that meets the setbacks. 270 is showing as a new, and I don't know if this is the original home. This appears to me to be the original home and not this redeveloped home. And the date of the approval here is based on the date that the building permit has been issued. So this is showing that it's not meeting the side setback on the north side. And then 195. I believe 195 might be this lot right outside of the neighborhood.
Can you slide that down now, please? Yeah, thank you.
This has a label of 200 Dania. They should have met, if they were new development, they should have met the setbacks. They could have received an administrative variance. I don't have that evidence this evening.
I guess just to clarify, so this would be the first new construction where the side setbacks would be less than 25 feet.
So the side setback, I believe the answer to that question would be yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Other questions? No? Thank you. The applicants like to come forward, please. Good evening. Good. Can you tell us your name and?
Can you first press the right button on the microphone? Thank you.
All right, can y'all hear me? All right, my name is Bryson Mercer. I am an attorney with Miles Hansford, 178 South Main Street, Alpharetta, Georgia, 3009. And I have the pleasure of representing the applicant tonight, Sean Shakib. I believe Nikisha is working on the presentation. Can y'all? Okay, that's fine. I can let you know. All right, so the applicant is requesting a setback variance along the southern boundary of the property from 25 feet to 12 and a half feet to allow for the construction of an approximately 4,800 square foot single family detached home with a rear loaded garage. The subject property is located at 265 Dania Drive and is zoned agriculture AG. Most of the Dania Hills subdivision is also zoned AG with, I believe, the exception of one lot. However, the Dania Hills subdivision is surrounded by an R15 zoning district, which only requires a 10-foot side setback. So as Michael pointed out earlier, most of Dania Drive is non-conforming anyways. It is an AG zoning, which requires a 5-acre lot size. All the lots in this are approximately an acre. And as Michael also pointed out, according to the staff report, about 70% of the lots have a non-conforming side setback less than 25 feet. And if you'll go to the next slide, please. So this is an aerial depicting the subject property, the AG zoning, and the adjacent R15 zoning districts. And if you'll go to the next slide. Oh, well, it didn't load all the way. Okay, that's odd. It is. The subject property is to the south. Anyways, that shows part of our lot, the subject property, and the lot adjacent to it. That's all right. I think we can make do without that. All right. And this is the site plan that the applicant submitted and that was revised and sent to y'all earlier today. And if you'll click the next slide. And one more time. So the area depicted in green here shows the affected area of the variance request. Like I said earlier, it's on the southern boundary that will be most affected. And we did get letters of support, as Michael pointed out earlier. If you'll click to the next slide. So here is a map of all the letters of support received. As Michael pointed out, and I'm sure y'all are very well aware, there was a lot of correspondence earlier today back and forth, some letters of opposition, some people saying, I support this application, but we have concerns about the proximity of the driveway to the northern property boundary. And I think we have met with most of the neighbors at this point and have a proposal that I think will get them on board. It is my understanding that we have agreed to that, and I'll get to that in just a minute. But in the off chance that you do hear some opposition tonight, you are likely going to hear that they are concerned with privacy. As I said, the proximity of that northern boundary and the location of the driveway. And we believe that the staff conditions address that. The city of Alpharetta does not have a setback specifically for driveways. So if this application were to be denied, we can come in and put a driveway right on the property boundary. And we have some proposed conditions and staff conditions that we think alleviate that concern from the neighbors. And like I said, I'll get to those in just a second. If you'll go to the next slide. This is a design front elevation of the property just to show that. And if you'll go to the next slide. So these are the proposed staff conditions. I spoke and met with the neighbors moments ago, and it is my understanding that we are in agreement with a few minor tweaks to these conditions. And condition, I'll start with 2. It is my understanding that the neighbors would like to actually keep or have the pecan tree located in the front of the property actually removed to allow for a septic area, septic field to be installed there. I can let them speak to that and confirm that, but that is my understanding. As for condition number 3, the neighbors and the applicant have agreed. It's a little complicated, but it addresses most of their concerns. It'll read that the driveway width shall be limited to no more than 12 feet wide, not including the portion of the driveway directly in front of the garage. The driveway shall maintain an 8-foot setback from the northern side property line, except for that portion directly in front of the garage, which shall have no setback from the northern side property line. So there's an existing fence that separates those properties approximately parallel with where the front of the garage is proposed. Additionally, the driveway shall have a flare and a 17-foot radius beginning 8 feet 6 inches from the beginning of the front of the garage along the western boundary. I know that's a little complicated, but in order to accommodate a proper turn radius to turn into the garage, we would have to have a flare out beginning approximately at that point. And again, I will let the neighbors speak to that on whether they're in agreement. And then we would propose to amend condition number 4 to read that the developer shall plant a row of evergreen trees and shrubs between the driveway and the northern property line, as well as along the southern property line, and beginning at the 100-foot front setback line to the western edge of the proposed rear-loaded garage in order to provide a screen as approved by staff. So that would essentially run the evergreen plantings up to that fence area that is existing there today. So that is my understanding of our discussions with the neighbor. And again, I know that's complicated. I'm happy to answer any questions about that. And so I'd like to just remind, not necessarily remind, but to point out that if the application is denied today, there is nothing restricting the location of the driveway. There's not a city ordinance regarding it. It can be put directly adjacent to the property boundary. So I'd be happy to answer any specific questions regarding this application, and I'll reserve the remainder of my time for rebuttal.
Thanks, Counselor. Questions from?
Can you reread that portion? What you were wanting is number 3?
Number 3. That's a long one.
Yeah.
I apologize. We wanted to make sure we encompassed all of the neighbors' concerns. So I'm going to just quote it verbatim. The driveway width shall be limited to no more than 12 feet wide, not including the portion of the driveway directly in front of the garage. The driveway shall maintain an 8-foot setback from the northern side property line, except for that portion directly in front of the garage, which shall have no setback from the northern side property line. The driveway shall have a flare and a 17-foot radius beginning 8 feet 6 inches from the beginning of the front of the garage. So that is where, and end quote. If anyone would like me to repeat that again, I'd be happy to do that. That is where it'll flare out towards the northern property line to allow for a turn radius to accommodate the entry into the garage.
Can you send us a copy? Of
Absolutely. I have a written copy.
Okay.
If
Yeah.
I just have one, if anyone would like it.
Other questions from the board?
It sounds to me like you've given a little bit in the front of the driveway, and then you've just taken a little bit at the top
Correct,
of the
and that
driveway.
is what the
Okay.
neighbors wanted. We specifically talked to the neighbor on the northern property boundary.
Gotcha.
Like I said, there's an existing fence, and they're not concerned with the location of the driveway where their fence begins.
Okay.
That was my understanding. I'm sure they will speak tonight, and so that is our understanding of that.
Thank you.
And they have seen that proposed condition as well.
So the changes that are different than were previously presented are you've changed the driveway and you've added more trees on both sides? Is that,
That is correct.
okay.
We have repositioned the driveway, agreed to a setback of 8 feet, except for that portion in front of the actual garage entryway, and except for the flare.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you. I'm going to leave that there in case anyone wants to.
Sure. We'll open this up to public comment.
Anyone in favor, please come forward. And please state your name and address. Anyone in opposition, please?
I think we need clarification. Were you coming down for in favor or in opposition? Because it looked like you were coming down, then you stopped, so I just want to make sure you speak during the right time. Yes, but so she called for in favor, and it didn't seem like anybody came, but I wanted to clarify just.
I like to come give public comment, not associated with favor, not necessarily.
Okay. I think if nobody's here in favor, then I think we just move on to the opposition.
Okay.
You can speak.
Well, then I'll come down in favor.
Okay.
Can you tell us your name and your address?
Is this already on?
Yes, it
Okay.
is.
I'm Nicholas Cardamone at 255 Dania. I'm the northern neighbor. I think most of you know me by now. So as recently as today, the applicant and I, along with several neighbors, have discussed in the 10th hour some conditions that we would like that their council has presented that are agreeable to us as it stands at the moment. And those conditions, again, begin with the largest concern that we have outside of precedent starting, which to correct the conversation earlier, 260 and 270 are the homes that are the new homes. And as far as we know, as all the neighbors, they do actually conform with the 25-foot setbacks. They both received, to my knowledge, administrative variances in the front of their property. 195 Dania is also not entirely depicted on the chart that you guys get to see. It's a brand new home built by the applicant, as far as I know, at the very beginning of the neighborhood. I don't know their setbacks. I think the largest concern of the neighbors is the proximity of the driveways to each other. It's certainly my concern as the northern property owner, and I understand that there is no ordinance to prevent somebody with a conforming home to also still put the driveway there. We have worked on some conditions, and those conditions include having shrubbery or trees, evergreens, between the two properties. We've also asked for additional space of 8 feet. It's also noted that the survey that the applicant has shows that the home in which I purchased, to my knowledge at this moment unknown, stipulates that potentially my driveway does already encroach on their property. And so in some ways we will work towards an agreement, or I will receive an easement agreement in addition to the 8 feet of separation as proposed in these conditions. It should be noted we will be going forward, if this is approved today or denied, to the city council on June 3rd with the proposition of the variance actually going.
We don't, this does not go to city council. This,
No, I understand. We're going to make a separate proposal to city council for the variance to go somewhere between 8.5 to 9 feet of their southern boundary to create even more room between the driveways. So regardless of the outcome tonight, our goal is to go on June 3rd and receive an even larger setback on the southern side of the property as agreed upon between the southern property owner, myself, many of the neighbors, and the applicant to allow ample space for what many of us believe to be, actual distance between driveways. So I am here on behalf of many of the residents that voted to approve this and suggested to deny it, to say, based upon the conditions presented today, we are in agreement with them. We also have handshake agreements right now that will be going June 3rd to ask for the property to be moved even farther to the south to allow enough space between the northern property and the driveway, which again cannot be controlled regardless, but in good faith, we're working together so that there will be that space.
Okay. Thank you.
Got a question for Nicholas. Nicholas, are you on the, what property are you?
On the northern property,
On Northern 265?
255.
255. I just want to say that I know you've been involved actually in the past quite a few times. You're a concerned neighbor. I know a couple of times we mentioned for you to share the whole information with your neighborhood and see, your concern is the precedent it's setting actually in the future more than anything. And I believe probably I can be corrected. That's something that the community associate, your subdivision be able to set that so that we can have, a book guidance, be able to say that's something that
Correct. It should be noted that all the new construction does already abide by the 25-foot setbacks. The homes that do not, there's 18 homes part of the Dania subdivision. That means there's 36 side setbacks. There's only 2 of them as it currently stands as depicted on their GIS survey the city put together. There's only 2 that are less than what the applicant is proposing for today already. And those homes are original homes from the 1970s. So those have been around a very long time, and both of those homes happen to be single-story homes. Again, I don't think the neighborhood wants to set a precedent that we turn into an R15 neighborhood. It's the 3rd oldest road in Alpharetta, as depicted in literally across the hall here in your museum. We'd like to keep it that way. So by setting a precedent that we're moving the property to the southern boundary is not to allow for myself or any of the other residents to really try to take advantage of this council and the leniency that we've negotiated amongst ourselves to then say that every house should have an 8-foot setback from their neighbor, because that would take away from the entire allure of the road and why we moved there. What we're trying to do is, because the applicant has not proposed another floor plan, to my knowledge, in actual writing, say for example with a front-loaded garage, the only way to work around this is to move the property farther over to the south to create enough room for there to be space between the driveways. I cannot move my driveway. It is already on the property line as far as I know. And, it's the only way I can access. I have a rear-loaded garage. The applicant's application shows a side-loaded garage. So again, this will set a precedent. It will be the first variance, to my knowledge, on Dania for a side setback for a new construction.
Can I ask you one question?
Yes.
The letters of objection, everything there, you're speaking, because we've just went around a couple of different things. So are you standing there speaking in favor of the application to this board, saying as the neighbor on the most northern side?
I am speaking in favor, as part of this application with all the conditions that this council has read forth. I am asking for approval, but do understand I only have a handshake agreement right now on the fact that in reality, what we're looking for.
I'm just saying, but as it stated, the conditions that are stated there by the applicant, if
Those were written 5 minutes before this meeting. So those emails.
But if those conditions are put into an approval of this.
Will the
request,
people who said no, or please don't approve this, be okay with it? Is that what you're asking?
No, I'm not, you can't speak on their behalf. I'm asking, you standing in front of me, is the property owner on the most northern side, adjacent, joining on the northern side, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Approve this application with the conditions that were read by the applicant previous to you standing up here.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
A point of clarification, is this a HOA?
It's not.
Okay.
Thank you.
Should add, sorry, forgot to add. The neighbors, or I can only speak for myself, we are asking as part of these conditions, as I just agreed to, that does include the removal of the pecan tree in the front, which will help us in our June 3rd meeting that we plan to have.
Is there any other public comment? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Somebody like to make a motion?
Actually, I have a question right quick.
Oh,
It's a question for staff, actually.
Thank you.
Regarding the tree, because I know how Alpharetta is with trees, can we, how can we address this new proposal with that? Does that have to, what happens with that?
I mean, I would like to have a little bit more understanding of why the 17-inch pecan is being removed. However, I do appreciate that the applicant and the neighbors are talking to each other and trying to find some common ground and agreement here. So, but if the applicant can maybe speak to why that is being requested to remove that particular tree, I'd like to know a little bit more information before I respond to that.
Counselor.
Specifically regarding the pecan tree, what have you. It has been discussed that, as the neighbor pointed out, that we can take this application to the city council to request an additional variance along the southern boundary to accommodate additional distance between the driveway and the northern property boundary. And that is a plan as of right now, that the applicant seeks to do that. There is no guarantee that city council would do anything with that action or anything like that. And so in order to accommodate moving the house a little bit further south, We have asked to remove that pecan tree to accommodate that, as well as some of the neighbors expressed concern about potential locations of our septic field. So we are proposing to remove that tree to allow for a septic field to be installed in that area. And that is where the neighbors told us they preferred to put it, is my understanding. So in order to do that, we would have to remove the pecan tree. Are there any other questions?
Yes, I have a question. This is with regard, I understand, to accommodate the northern side of the neighbor, we shifted the driveway to the, further away. Does the south side of the neighbor is aware of it? This looks like.
It is my understanding
And
that she is in the
agreement.
audience and supportive, but I would let her speak to that if she would like to. If she would like to come forward, that is her choice. Are there any additional questions?
And it may be for staff, you may be able to answer it. The pecan tree, is it considered an understory tree? What, is it a specimen tree? Because it's going to be 24 inches if it's...
I believe it's 17.
It's a 17-inch tree. It is not a specimen.
It's not a specimen tree.
But it was identified as a good condition tree, and so we were
But would there be,
recommending.
it would be recommended to try to keep it, but is there, it doesn't have to have any recompense if it's taken down? Is it?
They would have to recompense for the removal of that tree.
Okay.
But, that they can certainly, it's a 1 acre lot, so they certainly can plant some trees on the property to remove that tree.
Okay.
I would say that if they are okay with removing that tree, and that is what has been agreed to between the neighbors and the applicant, staff wouldn't have a concern with that being removed from the condition.
Would not have any issue?
We would not.
Okay.
Any other questions for the council?
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion. I would make a motion to approve this V 24-09 for 265 Dania Drive, subject to the, hold on. Sorry, I don't have my list in front of me. The 4 conditions with the site layout being this new dated 2/23/24, and then the new written conditions that have been proposed or been submitted.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion?
Yeah, discussion would be on it from a staff standpoint. And I'm not sure if you can answer this or not, but the 4 conditions that staff had put in place, the additions that they have come to terms with, are all those conditions in order for staff to be able to get behind and approve those conditions as they're written here? Because I know I'd heard some concern to make sure that these conditions are able to be upheld, they meet the conditions and everything that the city would have with it.
We would be fine with those changes, yes.
Okay, thank you.
May I add just one more, actually? I understand there's a last minute, actually, neighborhood objections, and we assume that subject to approval with conditions will meet, the complaints or the disagreement that we have with other neighbors? Would that meet the condition that we're approving? Will meet the objections that we had from neighborhoods, which we received in the last minute? Because there's nobody here to object at this point, even though we get the emails, but nobody's opposing to that. So we're assuming that, they're okay with that. So I just want to make sure that the condition will be meeting actually the concern some of the neighbors they had.
I can't speak to the 5 letters of objection that we sent to you late this afternoon. I don't know if those are represented by any of the folks in the audience today. So I can't really speak to that. I can assume that some of the public comments that you have heard have spoken to those neighbors and had maybe some discussions, but I don't know. I really can't speak to if they would be okay with those changes or not.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Thank you. The motion is passed. Motion to adjourn? Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
You guys can leave your, your tablets there because I have a meeting in the morning, so I'm just going to leave them there. Thank you.